It's become spending mad money to feel better. And not even better for yourself, to feel better than other people. And honestly, I think it's probably what led to this luxury movement stuff that's going on that I still don't quite understand. And maybe it's because I can't relate. What's good? My name is Queen and I am the founder of Vixen. Thanks for coming through if you're new here. And hey boo, if you're not new here, thanks for coming back. I appreciate you. This video was actually long overdue. I had planned to drop this during Women's History Month. I actually recorded it and everything, and the footage was jacked. Like it was just messed up, and I just didn't have the time to do it again. So I've decided to do it over now. And if I do this over and it does not work, I don't know. Maybe I'll throw it on Patreon. I have no idea, but this better work because I said so. This was supposed to drop on Women's History Month because I wanted to talk about Black women, my favorite thing. And I realized that I never really acknowledged Women's History Month really too much in my life. Like I go hard for Black History Month, but never really went really hard for Women's History Month. And I think it has a lot to do with me not feeling in community with a lot of women who are not Black because of the different ways that privilege works. And, you know, it's just lots of ways that they be having me fucked up. There is a reason why that distrust exists for me, and it has to do with privilege. Even though we're in the same group, so we're both women, if you are of a different class or if you have a different race, you tend to take up the most space and control the narrative, and I am just not good with that, and that's generally what happens even when Black women are in community with other marginalized women or gender expensive folks. Regardless of who creates theory, language, some way, somehow, if a Black woman is involved, she is erased from that. There's been so much amazing language that Black women and Black non-binary folks have. Womanist, Black feminist theory that has been co-opted, taken, and used in ways and spaces that it was not even intended for. If you listen to my podcast, Tea with Queen and Jay, or even engage with other Mixed Vixens writings, videos, or Mixed Vixen podcast episodes, you will see that I use a lot of lexicon created by Black women and Black non-binary folks, because why not? They were created for me. There's been amazing language and theory that have supported my womanist thought, and I'm grateful for that. And the words that they add into the lexicon have helped me put name to many of my own thoughts and feelings. There's the term colorism that you hear me talk about all the time on this channel that is more popularly known to be coined by Alice Walker. That term has been used and said before her, and I'm going to be honest with you, it was probably a dark-skinned woman who said it first, and because of the way erasure works, we now attach that to Alice Walker. I don't have like the facts for that, but I bet you that's the case because that happens more often than not. Then there's terms like misogynoir, which you hear me talk about often, and that term was coined by Black feminist Moya Bailey and also Trudy of the Black womanist blog Radiant Light. Yeah, I actually came in contact with the word from Trudy, and I followed her on Twitter for a really, really long time, and that's how I came in contact with the word misogynoir. Then we have phrases and hashtags like Me Too, created by Tarana Burke, who we firmly know she is the creator of that now, but she had to push for that because she could have been erased from that too, because the Me Too movement kind of been whitewashed. Many times when that is being discussed in media, it is centering white women in entertainment when it was actually a hashtag term created by Tarana Burke, a Black woman, for the everyday Black woman in terms of sexual assault. I have experienced myself, I have seen other Black women, Black non-binary people in this space, theories, hashtags, so on and so forth, be stolen, commodified, and a lot of times just diluted to nothingness, just being something completely foreign from what it was creating from. Words do evolve, yes, but these are like intentional removal of Black women from these ideas. There have been words and phrases so diluted and overused that Black people don't even use them anymore or don't even understand that it's created for you. It is really easy for Black women to be erased from these movements in real time. Tarana Burke is still alive, and she could have been erased from that in real time. That is what we'll be getting into today, and I'm going to start out with the hashtag Black Girl Magic. Black Girl Magic was a hashtag created by Kershaw Thompson. She is the mother of Black Girl Magic. It was actually started out as Black Girls Are Magic, and it became wildly popular in 2013 after Kershaw Thompson began using the phrase online, and then it was later shortened to hashtag Black Girl Magic to uplift and praise the accomplishments, beauty, and other amazing qualities of Black women. She created the hashtag during a time when the come up on social media was to make Black women the butt of your jokes, to basically just make fun of us. Does that sound familiar? And that is something that still happens now. But if you think it's bad now, you should have seen what Twitter looked like, what these social media platforms looked like in 2012. Because it was a hotter mess than what you see right now. It still is, but it was a very, very ridiculous, horrible place for Black women to exist. Then there was like absolutely no pushback. So what we know now to be what people call being online dragged or cancel culture or whatever, that wasn't existent. And that didn't happen until Black women online started to come together to counteract a lot of the online abuse that we were receiving. So this hashtag was created to counteract a lot of the negative conversations, jokes, ideas that were being spread mainly on Twitter about Black women. And this was created to affirm that Black girls are magic, that all of these things that you're saying, calling us monkeys, calling us welfare queens, calling us bed wenches, harmful language for Black women, Black girls magic was created to counter that and also affirm Black women in online spaces, and then that would carry on into our everyday lives. So that was Kershaw Thompson's goal when she thought of Black Girls Magic. It's an amazing hashtag that she has been erased from. I'm sure that many of you watching this video didn't even know that she exists. And I think that is connected hugely to her being a dark-skinned woman, and also because she is not an academic. She doesn't have a PhD. She's just a everyday Black woman like myself who loves Black people, loves Black women, and is pushing to affirm space for us. Hashtag Black Girl Magic, the phrase Black Girl Magic, has been used as a way for people to make money, other Black people to make money, and she is not a part of that. She has been erased from that because people saw Black Girls Magic and just saw it as a money grab, whereas she created it for community. And some folks might have feedback like,
well, if she wanted this, then she should have, been better and trademarked it, and blah, blah, blah.
She wasn't thinking of a business when she thought of Black Girl Magic. She was thinking of Black girls and affirming Black girls and affirming Black women. That was the goal. And it's the other capitalistic stuff, because people think capitalism is a way to liberation. It is not. That they saw that and jumped on it and just made it a money grab, and aren't even doing anything to affirm that Black girls are magic, even with these businesses. Her goal was not monetary gain or create a business from Black girls magics, but who would want to be erased from something that they created for the community and also be erased from it by other Black women and people? And the thing that is unfortunate about what has happened to the hashtag Black Girl Magic, still a great hashtag to use. I follow her on Twitter and it's still something that she stands by, but it's very unfortunate what capitalism and greed and also people not thinking about how to affirm community. Now we have people out in the world who may not be on Twitter, who may not know the origins of why Kershaw Thompson created this. And now they are denouncing what Black Girl Magic was even for, because they don't even know its actual origins. They don't understand that Black Girl Magic was actually an act of resistance and an act of affirmation for Black girls and women, because we live in a world that tells us every day that we ain't shit. It's not to state, and it's never been to state, that we are mythical creatures and that we don't feel things and that we're strong and that we don't feel pain and that we can't be soft. That's not what any of that is doing, and if we worked harder at not erasing the origins from the phrases and lexicon that we get from each other and that we insert into our community, then this type of thing would not happen. Krishan Thompson has said, each one of us needed something that was going to celebrate all of the awesomeness that we are. It was just a way to say it. Now, do I think that we are magical, mystical creatures? Literally? No, we are very human, but even in our ordinariness, we are extraordinary. Self-care. Ooh, this one is a doozy. So self-care, which was actually radical self-care, which was a term coined by Audre Lorde. And I can admit that I had first met the term self-care. I had not known it was created by Audre Lorde either. That entered the chat for me when I was listening to my friend Dr. Money on Queer Walk podcast, really dope podcast. I'm gonna link it down below for you to listen to that. Mentioned it in one of her episodes, and that's what made me attach the origins of self-care and what it actually was and what was actually offered to community and what or how I was supposed to like use that. I can't remember which episode that I heard that on Queer Walk. It was so many years ago. But like I said, check it out, and I have a link below for that. Audre Lorde was a Black civil rights activist, writer, lesbian feminist who was especially prominent in the 1960s all the way into the 1980s. She passed in the early 90s from cancer. The notion of self-care, the radical self-care that Audre Lorde was talking about would be very foreign. If she was to somehow just be on the planet right now, the way that we use self-care is so foreign from what she attended that like I would be disgusted if I were her. And self-care was specifically created for Black women. She was talking about when she spoke of radical self-care. This was written in her essay from her book, A Burst of Light. She wrote this book after being diagnosed with cancer for a second time. And in this book, Audre Lorde reflects on her life and how she, a queer Black woman, who had given much of her life and herself to civil rights activism, might utilize the act of self-care to not only function in the face of adversity, but also as an extension of political warfare. Self-care, radical self-care, was a tool in the toolkit for our resistance to racism, our resistance to sexism, our resistance to queer phobia. That's what self-care was for. Political warfare does not sound like a bubble bath to me. We've all used it. I use it. Everyone used the phrase a lot. I think it's important to make the distinction that we have been using self-care wrong, or we haven't been applying it wrong. Self-care isn't about just fulfilling yourself and then that's it. Self-care is about fulfilling yourself because so that you can in turn fulfill your community. It doesn't just stop with just you getting your nails done and now you've done it. What do you do after that for your community? So it's not manicures, it's not bubble baths, it's not cups of wine, it's not other tangible things. All of that is very far from the origins of what the intention of self-care was created for. Audre Lorde was trying to make sure that she left us with tools to combat, resist, and still be able to live in a racist, sexist, homophobic society. And that's something you cannot do, even if you're not an activist. That's something that you cannot actively do if you do not fulfill yourself. But you need to understand that you're fulfilling yourself because you need to cycle that out and also fulfill the needs of the communities that you are in. You're removing the community aspect of what the intention of self-care is. It's become spending mad money to feel better, and not even better for yourself, to feel better than other people. It's become a flex. For years and years, this ongoing idea of self-care, this selfish kind of self-care with the removal of community in this process is what has led to this luxury movement that I don't quite understand, that I can't relate to. I
I don't fuck with these bitches. You do you? I don't.
Not all of them.
Yeah.
No, you can't. You
I don't
can't
fuck with none. I don't
everybody.
fuck
So
with
I don't
none.
fuck with
I
all
don't
these
fuck.
bitches.
See, I don't fuck with none of them.
I don't know. We've made self-care be about luxurious pampering when it's actually about fulfilling yourself so you can fulfill your community. We need to get out of individualistic ideas and get more into communal ideas. There's an insertion of classism also when it comes to how people relate to self-care. It seems as though you need money to self-care. That is not the intention. That is not what Audre Lorde meant when she said and she presented radical self-care. The act was never meant to be selfish. It was meant for Black existence and sustainability. For something to be sustainable, it has to be accessible for everyone. And self-care does not seem to be as accessible as Audre Lorde wanted it to be. It's pretty upsetting that a Black woman who dedicated her life to civil rights activism, Black woman liberation, and wanted us to use this as a function for community, but we have somehow warped it and used it as a function for self and selfish reasons. So we're going to close talking about intersectionality. This is another word that people just kind of use in weird ways. You might often hear intersectional feminists or intersectional, a newer thing I've heard is intersectional environmentalism. People pop on intersectional in front of anything, and it's getting weird. It's getting weird. Intersectionality is an analytical framework for understanding how aspects of a person's social and political identities combine to create different modes of discrimination and privilege. The term was coined by Kimberly Crenshaw in 1989. Intersectionality identifies multiple factors of advantages and disadvantages. In 1989, there was a case for a car manufacturer company. Black women were fired or wrongly. No, they filed a lawsuit against this car manufacturing company for discrimination. And what happened with this case was these Black women were told to choose: either you filed woman discrimination or you filed for discrimination, racial discrimination. But they were not just discriminated against just because they were women or just because they were Black. These were intersections that affected them equally at the same time. But Black women were not a protected class. Black women. So women were, and being Black was a protected class. But to file a lawsuit saying there's a very specific discrimination happening to me because I'm a Black woman did not exist. And Kimberly Crenshaw wrote about that in a paper in 1989, and that is when she coined the term intersectionality. To bring light to folks not understanding intersections and understanding that there are different ways to be marginalized based on your intersection. There's a very specific kind of discrimination, I talk about it often, misogynoir, that happens to Black women. Gender and race are both equal parts in my discrimination as a Black woman. Intersectionality has morphed into like a term that is being used incorrectly a lot. It has somehow morphed into an identity and not an action. And intersectionality was a call to action to acknowledge identities, not to become an identity. And people use intersectionality as an identity, that I am an intersectional feminist. And no, intersectionality is pointing out different identities can exist at one time. And someone can be discriminated against based on those different identities at one time. But somehow, intersectionality has become an identity, an intersectional feminist, an intersectional no, it's not supposed to be an identity. It is something that points out identities. It is a call to action to not allow the most vulnerable fall through the cracks, and to acknowledge that the intersections we have can be a point of privilege or a point of oppression. So what does that look like? I am a Black woman, right? So a place where I can have my oppression intersects is I am a dark-skinned Black woman. So I can be in a room with lots of Black women, and the light-skinned Black women will still have more privilege than me. Because my identity as a dark-skinned Black woman, although we are both Black, is different from hers as a light-skinned Black person. That's where my intersections create more marginalization than it would another Black woman. Then there's instances where I, a Black woman, has more privilege than another Black woman. So I am a cis Black woman. But a trans Black woman, because of her intersection of identity of being Black, being woman, and being a trans woman, those intersections make her more marginalized than me. Her identity does make her more marginalized than me. And if we do not acknowledge people's intersections, if we only acknowledge Black, dark-skinned cis women, we are letting Black, dark-skinned trans women fall through the cracks. And we are not liberating anyone. Understanding intersectionality has helped me understand that liberation happens from the most marginalized and then it moves up, not down. So when we free or liberate the most marginalized of Black people, then all Black people can actually achieve liberation. And if you don't understand intersectionality as a call to action and as a function and as something that points out identities, but you use intersectionality as a label or identity, you're doing it all wrong. You're not doing it right. Stop making intersectionality a label. That's not what it's supposed to be. Put it into action. Like, y'all are really late on that. Put some respect on Kimberly Crensshaw's name, because y'all wildin'. I made this video because I'm a womanist theorist myself, and I understand that, we all are influenced by each other, but I do think it's really important that we hold space for the origin of a lot of the language that we use, and also not erase other Black people or other non-binary people from these theories and ideas, because we will lose root of what the language was created for, and then we make the words useless. If the word is not using me correctly, then the action damn sure isn't going to be. So as a collective, I just think we should be better with that and handle that way better than we've been handling it. All right, I think I've said enough. I've rambled on a lot longer than I intended. If you made it to the end of the video, put womanism in the comments. I just want to see. I'm trying to test and see how many people watch my videos all to the end, because I know some of y'all don't. Life is life. It's all good. Yeah, do that. Become a patron. I have a patron. Join Patreon. I actually just released an exclusive podcast episode on Patreon talking about my relationship with fat phobia and body image. So check that out. Links to all of that in the bottom. As always, you are a bad bitch. You are enough. Stay fly, and I'll see you in the next one.